everybody, it's me, Miss Mariah at the Elm City Library. For today's pajama story time, we're going to be reading books about unicorns. We're going to start with Nerdy Corn, written by Andrew Root. Fern wasn't like the other unicorns. Instead of spectacular leaps over shimmering rainbows, she preferred building robots in her laboratory. Rather than splashing majestically in mountain waterfalls, she enjoyed coding software to program her computer. She liked chemistry more than glitter, reading rather than rainbows, and 3D printers instead of sparkles. And even though she knew she was different from the other unicorns, Fern was proud of who she was. Because she was smart. Just look at her solve that quadratic equation. A good friend. There she is, picking up her neighbor from the airport. And always willing to help others. Wow, she's changing their oil and cleaning their gutters. But even when Fern went out of her way to do nice things, some of the other unicorns would still tease her for being different. They called her names. That's not a rainbow. Only a nerdy corn would paint that. Occasionally laughed at her glasses, and never invited her to hang out with them at their sparkle dance parties. I've had enough, Fern said one day. I'm through helping rude unicorns. The next time they need an engine rebuilt, turbo sprocket installed, or hydrothermal capacitor wielded, they are on their own. So when Buttercup's sapphire-bejeweled digital flutter phone broke, Fern kept her soldering iron packed away and simply shrugged. And when the wheel of Ruby's shimmer bike snapped, Fern stood by her truing stand and centering gauge and just shook her head. A few days later was the biggest sparkle dance of the year, but Fern decided to stay home. She doubted the other unicorns would even notice she was gone, and besides, she had more important things to do. Fern was in the middle of realigning her centrifuge for a zero-gravity ice cream experiment when suddenly she heard a knock. She opened the door to find Buttercup, Ruby, and the rest of the young unicorns all looking very concerned. "Fern, you've got to come help. The sparkle dance is ruined. The confetti machine is clogged. The rainbow synthesizer ran out of twinkle power. The starlight bedazzler has completely stopped working. We're sorry we were so mean." Fern looked at the unicorns, thought for a moment, and then closed the door in their faces. She went back to her desk and was nearly through calculating the milk-to-sugar ratio needed to make ice cream on the moon when she started thinking about the sparkle dance. Fern knew the others didn't deserve her help after the way they had treated her, but deep in her heart, she felt that being smart, a good friend, and always willing to help others was far more important than holding on to a grudge. Fern gathered her supplies and rushed to the sparkle dance. Using her multimeter, digital calipers, an arc welder, and 9-volt batteries, an old soda can, some dental floss, and a bit of dry ice. She was able to get everything working again. With the rainbows flowing, the confetti flying, and the starlight shining, every single unicorn cheered for her. She had saved the dance. Once the congratulations had stopped and the party had begun, Buttercup, Ruby, and all the young unicorns gathered excitedly around Fern. "We're sorry, Fern. We should never have treated you like we did. We wish we could invent, fix, and create like you. It was so cool how you recalibrated that bedazzler. How hard is it to program in binary code? What's the best type of flux to use when soldering? Could you teach us?" And from that day forward, while all the unicorns still enjoyed noble gallops through fields of honeysuckle, stupendously sparkle-tacular discos, and outrageously glitter games of horn polo, they also couldn't wait to put on their tool belts, pull out some graph paper, fire up the acetylene torch, and get to work on one of Fern's amazing projects. And they each tried their best to be smart, a good friend, and always willing to help others. The end. Next, we're going to read Thelma the Unicorn by Aaron Blaby. Thelma felt a little sad. In fact, she felt forlorn. You see, she wished with all her heart to be a unicorn. Her best friend's name was Otis. He liked her quite a lot. He said, "You're perfect as you are," but Thelma said, "I'm not." And that was when she saw it, a carrot on the ground. It gave her such a great idea, she squealed and jumped around. She took that simple carrot and she tied it to her nose. "I'll say that I'm a unicorn. It might just work. Who knows?" Well, as she did, a truck drove by. The driver rubbed his eyes. "Good grief, is that a unicorn?" he shrieked in great surprise. As Thelma watched the swerving truck, it very nearly hit her. Would you believe that truck was filled with nice pink paint and glitter? Oh, Thelma looked amazing. She was a unicorn. "I'm special now," she cried out loud. And so a star was born. All across the whole wide world, her fans would cheer her name. Thelma loved it, every bit. The fame, the fame, the fame! Thelma was a superstar. Her dreams had all come true. But soon she found that so much fame was kind of tricky, too. You see, her fans were mad for her. They'd scream and cry and laugh. They'd chase her everywhere she went to get her autograph. In fact, they'd chase her all day long. It never, ever stopped. They chased her while she exercised. They chased her while she shopped. Please don't chase me anymore, she asked the screaming crowd. We'll chase you all we want, they said. We're fans, so it's allowed. And some were not her fans at all. No, some were really mean. And some just did the meanest things she'd ever really seen. So one dark night, she felt quite sad, this famous little pony. She said, I thought that I'd feel great, but all I feel is lonely. And so with that, she changed her mind, this lonely unicorn. She cleaned off her sparkles and she ditched her magic horn. And then she walked right past the crowd. They didn't even notice. She thought how nice that it would be to see her lovely Otis. And when he asked about her trip beneath their favorite tree, she simply said, "Oh, it was fun." But I'd rather just be me. The end. Our next book is called Not Quite Normal by Jessie Sima. Kelp was born deep in the ocean. He knew early on that he was different from the other narwhals. His tusk wasn't as long as everyone else's. He had different tastes in food, and he wasn't a very good swimmer. But his friends didn't seem to mind, so Kelp decided he wouldn't either. That is, until he was swept away by a strong current. I wish I were a better swimmer. Kelp found himself at the surface, closer to land than he'd ever been before. High up on a cliff, he spotted a mysterious, sparkling creature. It looked so familiar. It looked like Kelp. Kelp swam towards land as fast as he could, which wasn't very fast at all, hoping that he could catch up with the creature that looked just like him. When he finally reached the shore, Kelp felt a little bit anxious. He had never left the ocean. He was nervous about walking for the first time, but the land creatures made it look so easy. It wasn't. eventually he got the hang of it. Everything on land was strange and beautiful, but also kind of scary. Kelp began to think he might never find the creature that looked just like him. But as he stumbled out of the forest, land narwhals actually were unicorns, and by the looks of it, so were you. Kelp had never heard of unicorns before. They taught him all sorts of new things about his tusk. We call them horns. Wow. They introduced him to unicorn delicacies, and they showed him how to gallop. There was no doubt that Kelp was, in fact, a unicorn. He was having so much fun that he didn't want to leave. But then he remembered all of his friends under the sea. Kelp missed them terribly, so he said goodbye to the unicorns and returned to the ocean. Come back soon. Kelp swam toward home as fast as he could, which wasn't very fast at all, hoping that the narwhals would still like him now that he was a unicorn. When he finally arrived, Kelp had butterflies in his stomach. Kelp! Kelp took a deep breath and told his friends the news. It turns out I'm not a narwhal. Of course you aren't. I'm a unicorn. We all knew that. They took it quite well. Kelp was happy to be home, but now that he'd experienced life on land with the unicorns, he couldn't seem to forget them. Did he want to be a land narwhal with the unicorns, or a sea unicorn with the narwhals? Kelp couldn't decide, but then he realized that maybe just maybe he didn't have to choose. The end. I hope you liked our story time today. If you did, I have some good news for you because we have even more unicorn books. At the Elm City Library, we have, if you liked our book about Thelma the Unicorn, we have The Return of Thelma the Unicorn. We also have Unicorn Day and Kevin the Unicorn. It's Not All Rainbows. Well, I hope you've enjoyed your time with me. I've enjoyed my time with you, but it's time for me to go to bed now, so I will see you guys later. Goodbye!